Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to open the CyberEXPERT 2023 conference organized by the Cybersecurity Expert Training Center. It is a major honor to host so many experts and leaders in the realm of cybersecurity, especially that the leitmotif of this conference are the two fascinating domains, AI and quantum technology. When I joined the ministry, I never expected such a high level of technological sophistication in the Polish armed forces. When I came here, I learned a lot. Before, I thought that cybersecurity and cyber defense were just slogans for you, but I couldn't be more wrong, and I'm really sorry that I had thought like that. I think we are ranked 5th or 6th out there when it comes to the level of cybersecurity knowledge. I learned a lot about AI and quantum technology and opportunities created by those in the Polish armed forces here. So let me officially open this conference. I'd like to thank Paweł again for inviting me here, and I hope you have a great day full of great lectures, and I hope you have fun. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, directors. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now have the keynote speech titled In Professor Cochrane's Lab, delivered by Professor Aleksander Byrski from the AGH Academy in Krakow. Thank you. It's a great honor and pleasure to be speaking to you today. When I went through the list of speakers, the bios and the scientific backgrounds and scientific interests, I couldn't help but conclude that it is a great pleasure to provide a keynote speech here. I'll try to be brief, especially that we have a slight delay already. And we're in for a day full of great lectures. In my lecture, I'd like to give you a high-level summary of what we are going to talk about. Let's start with Professor Cochrane, a figure made up by our major writer who, as they say, lost the Nobel Prize to Wisława Szymborska one day. But I think they were going neck and neck, so it's not really losing, although, well, it's a pity that he didn't end up getting the Nobel Prize. Stanisław Lem is the one I'm talking about. Stanisław Lem, hailing from Krakow. He's the most translated Polish writer ever, translated into 24 languages, and he said himself that some of those translations were illegal, talking about AI and the legal use of it. So the scale of his achievements is immense. He authored predominantly science fiction novels, but he used the realm of science fiction as a pretext to do some philosophy-related writing about the world we live in and the direction we are going. Well, sometimes if you come across something that is very fashionable in the popular culture, you conclude that he had made it up 30 years before. One of the funniest and most interesting books by Stanisław Lem are about the John Tichy's wandering in the universe, like in the Star Diaries. It's great fun reading Stanisław Lem's book because of his very nice and very reader-friendly language, full of irony, and I think I don't have to recommend it to you anymore. Also, the Germans made a series about John Tichy's wanderings. This is what they came up with. They created a very special style and flavor of the series. Just like here, you can see on screen the kitchen with the 1960s style. It is all very closely following the style depicted by Stanisław Lem in his books. So I strongly recommend this series. This is John Tichy and his partner in wandering. But in Polish, her name is Halucyna. One of the trips of John Tichy was to Professor Cochrane's lab. Professor Cochrane being an outcast in the world of science, so he invited Tichy to his lab, asking whether he believed in ghosts. And then he came to the lab and witnessed a row of chests, very much like in the pirate stories, chests for storing some precious loots. And then Professor Cochrane said that in the chests there were electronic brains with all kinds of senses connected, and the readings delivered to them. Also, whatever you deliver to the brains is fully simulated. So effectively, these are brains where the reality is created from scratch. One of the brains was a simulation of a young woman sitting in the bay window and waiting for her lover to come in the rain, all very romantic. So there was an electronic persona, and all the impulses came from outside. Which leads us back to the 18th century and the philosophy of Immanuel Kant, who came up with a thesis that we weren't fully capable of knowing things. In the Bible, it says that we know things to some extent and anticipate them to or predict them to some extent. And according to Kant, there are some phenomena we perceive and there are no ones we cannot perceive. And in between there are our senses which can be deceived. or subject to simulations. So this is by far the greatest summary of what Kant said. What would happen if I wore pink glasses all my lifetime? So if I used the pink filter to perceive the reality for my lifetime. It's like the young woman sitting in the bay window and waiting for her lover to come in the rain. But coming back to our main topic, the brains Professor Corcoran created for sure contain some elements of AI, which leads me in turn to my personal experience. Well, I should provide some fun and jokes at the beginning and at the end of the speech, they say. So there's this lecturer I once met, Dr. Marian Bubak, and when I was his student in computing and science and technology, it was at the beginning of the AI world, and he said that artificial intelligence is for people who lack their own intelligence. That's what he said all the time at our university. But then at the end of the day, he ended up being very active in the area of AI now. So he went a long way since Professor Tadeusiewicz brought the first elements of AI to us from the West in the early 1990s. So even die-hard opponents of artificial intelligence cease to be ones. So what is AI? What is its definition? There are many definitions out there, but some say that it is an opportunity to analyze and adapt to the changes in the environment. Professor Duch, some 2 or 3 months ago, came up with another definition saying that intelligence is the ability to perceive what's in our mind. Once we can do it, we are halfway through being intelligent. Well, in a perfect world, artificial intelligence should perfectly mirror that. It nearly does, and we don't know whether it ever fully does it. So, to sum it all up, artificial intelligence is a tool. We should learn how to use it, and we shouldn't be afraid of it. Hypothetically, artificial intelligence should be identical to natural intelligence and pursued by machines, but as it is a set of technologies, it helps us in a quasi-intelligent way. It's like with brute force method. Computers can calculate faster than we do, so they can help us. So building further algorithms, computers end up being capable of recognizing faster whether there is a plane or a bird coming our way.
Probably a lot of you have heard that artificial intelligence is a tool. It's just a series of algorithms which simply lacks creativity. We can see what's going on with ChatGPT, with Jeremy systems, for example, but I will try to get back to that. So this is not creativity, it's just creativity by repetition. We also learn by repetition, so maybe we will be able to use it to some extent, but it's not functioning as the mind of the human being functions. So of course, the expert systems can be used to help us in decision-making processes. Scientists since 1960s have tried to use computers to, for example, assist doctors in diagnosing diseases. And, for example, tell the doctor that there is a tumor in a certain area of the body, or there isn't a tumor there. So this is the dream of scientists, that artificial intelligence can be developed and used in that way. Plus, learning, machine learning, it's something that can be used in artificial intelligence to help us, but it also poses threats. Before that, we had even simpler models, but this model is very important because it is a fundamental issue of the perceptor, Rosenblatt's perceptron. So let's look what is this basic thought cell in computers. It was supposed to just shadow what is going on in our mind. So we have an algorithm here that takes x1, x2, x3, and x4, and it multiplies it by factors w1 to 4. Then we also have the way, which is very important here from the perspective of modeling reflections of our choosing. And then this sum is processed. We can see that we have a special mathematical function here, and we can see that this is a sigma-like function which is used here to also calculate the errors of such perceptrons. And then we have the output. So the whole artificial intelligence is based on this very simple perceptron. So you can see it's a very simple equation. It's sum, and it's so to say a weighted mean, and we take it and use it in our artificial intelligence tools. As simple as that. Of course, we have different kinds of artificial intelligence, for example, machine learning, also neural networks, and we can perceive those two elements of the cornerstones of artificial intelligence. Of course, ones or two from among many others. So, how does artificial intelligence learn? Of course, it does not learn on its own, as we do, but we can train artificial intelligence. So, as similarly as parent to child, the parent says to their child that this is called an egg and this is called a car, and then when the child tries to repeat that and makes a mistake, then the parent says, no, try once again, this is an egg and this is a car. And similarly in artificial intelligence tool, we need a trainer, and then artificial intelligence makes mistakes, makes errors, and then we teach it to avoid such errors. Then we can create clusters and in the end get the output that is similar to the other output that we wanted to achieve. We can also use reinforcement learning, where we have information whether we are doing something right or wrong. In games, for example, we are using it, and we can use it to, for example, find our paths in labyrinths, and then we get information whether we go in the right direction or the wrong direction, whether we do things right or wrong, and we learn. But you know, the nature of natural inspirations. Sometimes some people say these algorithms are inspired. Like, for example, Mr. Bandura said, because his father was from Krakow, but he spent his whole life in Canada, and he said that there is the socio-cognitive learning model in people, in humans. So we can learn by ourselves, but we can also observe others, and we can see that if someone gets burned by a burning candle, then we know that it is not a good idea to stick our fingers there, and we will not do that. And this is another perceptron. It is a multi-layer perceptron, and it gets information and input, and then it tells us that there is a certain track there, and we can see that it is not that clear, because neural networks and artificial intelligence has great characteristics, which is generalization. We also have it in our minds. So when we can see that when we get not a very clear input, then we can generalize a little bit and we can say that yes, this is more or less, for example, a ship. And the artificial intelligence algorithms can do the same. At the beginning of the 20th century, we could also hear theories that perceptrons are at the basis of artificial intelligence, and perceptron actually can teach artificial intelligence tools to recognize the input on the basis of the generalization principle, and it can learn anything that we want if we have sufficient neuron networks there. Of course, it's related to neural approach to artificial intelligence, and what we have now, it's based on the deep learning neural networks. And actually, this is the most common approach to artificial intelligence right now. Thanks to that, we can develop, for example, autonomous cars, and for example, ChatGPT also uses deep learning neural networks, etc. So, and I would like to show you also some effects of it in a moment. Thanks to that, we are able to create very complex models that can give us very interesting outputs. We can see that it is not a simple process where, for example, lamp number 5 lights up, so this is a ship. We can see that we have different layers of this model here, and these different layers can provide very complex outputs. So based on George Washington image, even we can receive George Washington images, or his also his works, his articles, and other related persons and texts. So this is more complex and this is more interesting. It gives us more interesting opportunities and applications of artificial intelligence, which was not possible a few decades ago. Another interesting phenomena related to that is, of course, the ChatGPT that I already mentioned, and it all is based on generative adversarial networks. Here we can create something based on artificial intelligence. We can see how this process works. So first we have a network which is trained on the data that it gets, that it receives. For example, we teach the algorithm how to write letters in the Polish language, and then we have the discriminator and generator. So this generator will generate answers at the beginning based on random noise, and then the discriminator can tell us the difference, whether it is fake or real, whether it is correct or incorrect. So we have some examples of literature there, but for example, ChatGPT, these large language models, are able to summarize literature, are able to generate short stories, and we think at first that they are creative in that because they have a lot of data already fed to them, and they do it on the basis of a generator. So we get random noise, or we can also then modify it by giving our feedback to that. And we can also generate images. So to the left we have a haunted house, then we have the underground, and then we have a spiral using strawberries. So we can see that the prompt was very curiously and artistically reflected in the form of a work of art. Of course, real human artists would be probably critical of calling it art, but it is something that to layman looks like something that an artist can draw. So that's great for us, right? But on the other hand, artificial intelligence, of course, can calculate things faster than ourselves, can do things faster than ourselves, can process data faster than ourselves. We would probably be able to write similar detective stories or stories like Arthur Conan Doyle if we read all of his stories hundreds of times. But artificial intelligence can do it very simply, very quickly. But still, it is weak AI. We are still going to the direction of stronger AI. Simple examples of the drawbacks of artificial intelligence and the gaps that it still has. Well, let's have a look at the first image. Are those Chihuahua dogs or are those muffins? So for us it's very obvious after we look for a while at the image which of those pictures depict dogs and which muffins, but artificial intelligence will have problems with that. And also the stop sign is not always well recognized due to the fact that it has some stickers on it. And also Mila Jovovich was mistaken for another guy just because of the glasses. So artificial intelligence still cannot recognize even faces very well. Also, we gave to artificial intelligence the panda image, and then we provided to artificial intelligence some noise, and it gave us again a panda bear image after this noise was included there, but artificial intelligence recognized the second picture as gibbon due to that noise. So artificial intelligence can generate a reality similar to what it has already seen. So, for example, hands are very problematic to artificial intelligence because when we can see images of hands on the internet, there are plenty of images of hands, but very often we don't get a very clear picture of hands. They are hanging somewhere, so we can see just part of the hand. So that is why it is very difficult for artificial intelligence to learn that a hand is something that consists of 5 fingers, etc. It's very simple to us, but artificial intelligence creates these images only based on the images available on the internet. That is why the reality created by artificial intelligence resembles me of the reality presented by Stanisław Lem. Science fiction authors created this strange world. For example, there were stories that, for example, told a story about a machine that always answered 7. For example, if we asked it how much is 2 plus 2, then it would say 7. And this is also the reality of our weak artificial intelligence. So one of the stories that resembles me of the artificial intelligence reality is how the world survived. So Glapauciusz is one of the characters, and we have also Calebron, and whenever Glapauciusz is to answer a question, then we have to wake him up with a button. So this is a very interesting story. Of course, it's science fiction, but it also moves us to reflection on artificial intelligence. So we are heading into the direction of stronger AI. Maybe someday we will be able to achieve it, but we are still in the phase of weak AI, and certain tests have been already prepared by great IT experts. For example, Turing test that was applied to ChatGPT, and we can see that ChatGPT did very well with this in this test. So two persons were talking, and then the model of artificial intelligence chipped in, and the people couldn't tell the difference whether they were talking to a human being or to ChatGPT. The gentleman who established Apple said that the test for AI would be to give an instruction to a robot to enter an average American house and make coffee. And then the robot would have to find the coffee machine, but then maybe some houses don't have coffee machines. Maybe there is no water in the tap, or maybe there is no coffee at home, so that robot would have to order coffee. So actually there are a lot of obstacles and barriers for such robot, and a lot of people say that this is similar to a student who has to learn a given field. A lot of people are afraid that artificial intelligence will replace us, but as for now, it's not possible for such a phenomenon to be competition for us. So, of course, artificial intelligence needs huge amounts of energy for their graphic cards, for example, so that, for example, these robots perceived as students would need to consume a lot of energy to be able to connect the networks and to the learn.
Yeah, we are going in the direction of technological quirks, but we can reach a moment where we won't be able to start the growth anymore. The machines will go on learning all by themselves. So it's like a realization of the vision from the Terminator or from the Matrix. Well, Matrix was 20 years ago when we first watched it. It made us think about Professor Cochrane. It made me think about Professor Cochrane, which was 1961, and the Wachowski sisters came up with Matrix, the Matrix in 2001. So we are getting closer to this singularity, text singularity moment with 3D printing. We can do some 3D printing already, but we cannot replicate chips by 3D printing. Not yet. To sum it all up, let's jump back to 1981, and Lem came up with it again in 1961. A brain in a jar, and Hilary Pullman's philosophical experiment. What will happen if we had our brain in a jar, just like in Lem's book, and if we connected all elements of our perception to that brain? It would think that it would be there, waiting for the lover to come in the rain, and it would be possible. And then he continued that it would be impossible to tell it to the brain because the brain couldn't operate notions going beyond the jar. But if we came up with a brain or a set of many brains generating the reality for themselves, it could be simpler than that. Lem came up with many weird things. I recommend The Perfect Void as a reader to you, where he wrote summaries of the books he never had time to write. It's a fascinating reader. So let me leave you with this idea of a brain in a jar. Why? Imagine we are the brain in a jar. It didn't start with Lem, it started much earlier than that in ancient Greece. Solzhenitsyn, Gorgias of Leontini, claimed that nothing exists, and if it existed, nobody could learn about it, and if they could learn about it, they couldn't communicate with others about it. It's a matter of perception, also coming up in the cave by Plato. So it was all born in the heads of ancient Greek philosophers. But this is general knowledge, very general, so we would have a problem with it. So on the one hand, we shouldn't worry about the AI's development because we are brains in jars. And even if we are not, I'm positive, I hope you are too by now, that this is just a tool. Let's go on and use it, but let's not get scared of it. Last but not least, a joke from the piece about Lem and Dick from Łazianowa in Krakow, related to solipsism. So, one day, very apropos of this meeting, there was a major solipsist congress. And then this great solipsist, one of the greatest out there, came and said to the room, "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I've never seen so many great solipsists in one place." So may it be the end of my intervention today. Thank you very much.